Well, thank you for having me. Since my involvement in the case, they have not been contacted. I must note that the order that was granted today was very pro forma. I know that it's being made out to be this big thing, but the prosecution was going to get this order come hell or high water. If this order was not granted, it was going to be an immediately appealable issue. So it's a pretty standard order in any kind of DNA case where they have that kind of evidence that the defendant is required to give non-testimonial evidence against himself, subject to certain constitutional limitations, and that's what happened today. So. I know that was more of a footnote, you could say, in that order. But again, the order, again, the criminal procedure law in the state of New York is very clear. It has to do with the defendant himself and what kind of evidence he may be required to upon the prosecution's motion to provide. That's all the order really dealt with. Their prior consent, whether or not it was granted, whether or not it was taken, whether or not it was given, is sort of a side note. Going forward, however, any such testing of any kind of blood, hair, materials, DNA from my clients, of course, would have to go through us, and we don't know as we sit here today whether or not that request would be complied with, consented to, or anything else. We haven't received it. When and if we do that, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Well, I really can't speak to that, but all I can say is that they're and there's a reason that we can't speak to that yet. But they're not foreclosing that. They're not foreclosing reaching out to him. Again, they're constantly reevaluating their circumstances, and their circumstances are changing minute by minute, as we saw even earlier today when this order came out. And of course, it sent everyone into a frenzy. As I said, it was quite pro forma legally, but obviously we know that the public, sees this as a big step or a milestone in the case. But what they're doing and what they're having to deal with, obviously, is having to make sure that their basic needs are met. That's the reality that they're dealing with: their food, their house, their clothing, their shelter, all the things that they've been completely robbed of. And again, I keep saying this, but it's true. They're truly innocent bystanders in this absolute, waking nightmare that's completely not of their own making. So they're primarily concerned with that at this point.